The Straw Hats entered Fishman Island in a completely illegal way, and now they weren't just being chased by the local pirates. The royal army was after them too. To make things even more complicated, Sanji had lost a dangerous amount of blood after discovering what he called paradise, so the crew had to save him while escaping from everyone at the same time. After Luffy rejected the offer from the new Fishman pirates to become their slaves, the Straw Hats were officially labeled as enemies of all fishmen. To them, humans were nothing but sinners. One of the leaders ordered a sea lion to attack the crew, but before anything happened, Usopp managed to refuel the Thousand Sunny. As soon as everything was ready, Luffy was prepared to jump into a fight, but Frankie reminded everyone that the Sunny was also a lion, and they'd show which one was stronger. The Sunny blasted forward at full speed, shocking everyone in their way. But their problems weren't over. As the protective bubble around the ship began to crack, the crew braced themselves. If it broke completely, they would sink before even reaching the island. Thankfully, they pushed through the final water layer just in time. Inside Fishman Island, their situation was still dangerous. For members of the crew were devil fruit users and couldn't swim at all, which made their illegal entrance even riskier. Many fishmen commented on how reckless they were, saying they could have simply rung the gate bell and offered some sushi to enter like normal visitors. Meanwhile, the local pirates hurried to their hideout to report everything to their boss, furious that their plan inspired by Arlong had been ruined. Somewhere else on the island, a group of children repeated the same lines over and over, and ran off the moment Luffy woke up. The kids cheered happily when they saw him awake, but you might ask why Sanji was lying next to Luffy instead of the rest of the crew. The answer? He had fainted after seeing a mermaid with bright green hair. Luffy was excited to see Cammy again after so long, and Sanji was even more thrilled. Only now did they realize they had reached Fishman Island safely. Cammy explained that the mermaids had rescued them after they nearly drowned and that they were currently inside her home. She also said the rest of the crew had been separated, but they were probably fine since Frankie and Zoro were strong swimmers. Cammy offered them warm soup to recover, but then remembered she had made cold soup by accident, which didn't help warm anybody. Even so, Sanji insisted it was delicious, showing how grateful he was. Some tiny mermaids brought their dried clothes. These were Cammy's friends, and one of them was surprisingly named Nika. They told the crew that they were inside the women's dorm of the Mermaid Cafe, where many mermaids lived together. Sanji's heart practically flipped with excitement. When he asked what the Mermaid Cafe was, Cammy explained that she worked there as a waitress, and that the place had many beautiful mermaids. Sanji began imagining the most dramatic scenarios possible, but proudly reminded himself he had promised not to nosebleed on Fishman Island. Cammy invited them upstairs to meet her friends. The place was so unusual that they used a giant turtle as an elevator. Cammy explained that her lower apartment was cheaper because it wasn't close to the surface. Luffy casually called her poor, which didn't bother her at all. Luffy asked where Paypag and Hatchon were, and Cammy explained that Hatchon had been badly injured 2 years ago while defending the Sunny at Sabaody. He was now resting in the Fishman district, a scary place Luffy wanted to visit later to thank him properly. Meanwhile, Paypag had become a famous designer with a luxurious mansion. Luffy assumed Cammy lived with him, but she said she didn't like that fancy lifestyle. Suddenly, Cammy swam upward into the open ocean-like sky inside the island. Usopp couldn't believe there were clouds and a sky under the sea. It looked like they were inside a strange version of SpongeBob's world. More mermaids joined them and asked if the rest of the crew was safe. They explained that the Straw Hats didn't enter through the official gate, which made things complicated. Sanji's nose began acting up again, and he could hardly handle being surrounded by so many mermaids. He even believed he had finally found his all blue. One mermaid invited him to dance, and he accepted immediately, mostly because she had green hair like Zoro, someone he'd never get to dance with. In the Fishman district, the local leaders learned that Straw Hat Luffy had finally arrived. One member trembled in fear, while the boss ordered them to bring Luffy to him at once. Back at the Mermaid Cafe, Sanji was happily surrounded by mermaids, imagining a new life there. Luffy wanted to swim like them, and Cammy explained he just needed a bubble suit, which any local craftsman could provide. Chopper was relieved. Sanji needed first aid quickly, since his rare blood type made things even harder. Luffy mentioned someone he was excited to meet. Cammy assumed it was the Mermaid Princess, but Luffy corrected her. He wanted to meet Jinbe. Usopp couldn't believe Luffy had made friends with yet another warlord of the sea. Luffy explained that Jinbe helped him overcome his grief after Ace passed away, and they had promised to meet again on Fishman Island. But Cammy revealed Jinbe wasn't on the island anymore. He had resigned from the warlord position after Marineford, so former members of the Fishman pirates couldn't stay there. Suddenly, the mermaids ran to warn Cammy that a strange ship had arrived. It didn't look like anything from the island, and they assumed the royal family was hunting the Straw Hats for entering illegally. The ship belonged to the Neptune brothers, and their arrival scared many mermaids. Cammy hid Sanji behind her, telling him to stay still. The brothers asked if they had seen any suspicious people, but the mermaids denied it. The fishman pirates watching from afar panicked. The royal army had arrived first. As the brothers were leaving, Sanji couldn't hold in his excitement anymore. His nose erupted with a powerful nosebleed, forming the shape of a mermaid. The brothers immediately recognized him as a Straw Hat. Chopper begged for help. Sanji couldn't survive much longer. His blood type was S-negative, extremely rare. Luffy even begged the fishmen for help, but they refused. Sharing blood with humans was forbidden, ever since Fisher Tiger died because no human donated blood to him. The pirates mocked the Straw Hats, telling them no one would help and that Sanji's condition was his own fault. They intended to take Luffy to Hody Jones, but Luffy refused to move. He activated Gear Second, dodged the attacks easily, and knocked them away with a flurry of powerful blows. Usopp warned him about a sea monster behind him, but Luffy subdued it instantly using his Conqueror's Haki. Everyone was stunned. Cammy shouted that they needed to take Sanji to the port, where many humans arrived and might have matching blood. The princes were shocked as she borrowed, or rather stole, their ship to carry Sanji. She promised to return it later, but they weren't sure whether to laugh or cry. She said she wished she could give Sanji her own blood, if she even understood how blood types worked. Chopper begged Sanji to stay calm because losing any more blood could be fatal. However, Cammy worried because no human tourists had arrived that month. Someone might be stopping them before they reached the island. The Neptune brothers scolded the mermaids for hiding the Straw Hats. They apologized, saying the Straw Hats didn't seem like bad people and they didn't want them arrested. But the brothers explained that Luffy was already known, immigration wasn't the real issue. They had wanted to deliver an important message from Jinbe. And with that, everything became even more chaotic. Will the crew find someone with the right blood type to save Sanji? We'll discover that in the next episode. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the videos on screen, they're amazing. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.